indeed, as you see behind me, the delegates just out of the fifth floor here at the Sandton Convention Center, where that handover did take place. It was received by Susan Clark, who is the President and CEO of the United States Chamber of Commerce. And before we get into that discussion with my guest on some of those key outcomes, of course, that financing gap, one of the issues that the President clearly outlined as being stopping inclusive growth, especially when we consider youth and women, and the need for scaling and opening up financing opportunities being those talking points. But digital infrastructure, financing digital infrastructure to ensure that we do get that inclusive growth, a key talking point as well. But before we talk about technology and the B20 members' role in fast-tracking digital infrastructure, let's take a listen to what the President had to say around the G20 and what the B20 actually managed to achieve in its presidency this year.
We counted more than 22 formations that have become part of the G20 family. Now, elsewhere in the world, we have been branded as South Africa as having convened the G100. And my retort is, no, we didn't convene the G100. We have convened the G-million, if you like, the G20 million.
So Vuyo, as you hear there being a little playful around, we had the G-millions, but pointing to that point of inclusivity and ensuring that everyone goes along for the journey. But I do have with me Sabina Del Olmo, who is the CEO at Siemens, to talk to us really about closing that digital gap. A lot of initiatives that President Ramaphosa and DTIC Minister Pakstau outlined that the B20 will be taking on. As Siemens, when it comes to technology and that digital infrastructure, the work that still needs to be done?
Yeah, absolutely. And one part of the discussion today was as well that, it does require the private, the public, and the institutional partnership. And we do believe specifically education and access to digital skills is absolutely vital in order to leverage the potential Africa has and South Africa has. And so for us, we have partnerships, for instance, with the major universities here in South Africa. We have invested heavily into companies which are already doing digital skills and digital application here in South Africa, for instance, Altair, located in Stellenbosch. And we also have partnerships with UN Women to get digital skills to young girls, to make them attractive to the digital business opportunities.
Now, South Africa obviously is the leapfrog to the rest of the continent, and really that collaboration, speaking to a greater continental collaboration with the partners from the global north and so on. When we talk about that financing gap then, how do we close that gap to ensure that we do meet the targets when it comes to digital, not only in South Africa, but across the continent?
Yeah, look, I think one part is obviously also helping people to see the value in, for instance, being banked, having access to smartphones, using, technology also in education, in medical technology. So when people understand it is a benefit for themselves and it reduces the cost of their daily living because they can be maybe more productive, or they have, cheaper opportunities to, for instance, education. You don't have to buy books necessarily. That will help, the society also to embrace this and rather, trying to exclude them on, a low level of commodities we would be able to give to them. But I do believe also on the other hand, we do need to have these kind of mentorship programs specifically for young people, because think about many young people which are living in rural areas are not necessarily aware of how an engineering, a coding job looks like in a company like Siemens. And so what we have done, we have embarked on a program with UN Women, we call it African Girls Can Code, to help them to get the skills what low-code software is, how they can write apps, and also we partnered it with a mentorship within our organization. So we have the second phase already going. Each are 600 young girls. They're paired with 250 mentors out of our global organization, and to see, what is the job about? How do I present myself on, LinkedIn? How do I write a digital CV? How do I present myself in a Teams meeting? How do I feature on camera? Because they all need to learn that, and not necessarily TikTok is the right, profession for the type of business we do.
Yeah. Now, before the president came to close the B20, he closed the C20, where he did say it was double the number of the people there, highlighting that civil society really looking to hear their voices heard. They handed him a declaration. Will business be looking at that declaration to ensure that really we speak to civil society, we speak to labor, and the solutions that are put on the ground are sustainable for the long term?
Yeah, I do believe so, because, from a business point of view, if you look into the program of the B20, so we have two very fundamental pillars. One is, employability, but also integration of the youth, the women, and marginalized societies, but also small, medium enterprises. And I think that really dovetails nicely with the social agenda of the C20. And I'm very excited. The panel of the South African B20 hosts have chosen the right agenda points. I do believe, going into the next years, we need to focus on what is the most common ground between the global South and the global North. And what we see, particularly in Siemens, is it will be the social compact, it will be education, and it will be digitalization, because all the countries in the world, because technology is moving so fast, will need to keep up, with getting their population abreast with what digital solutions are out there.
And I suppose, Sabina, as a last point, that technology is that enabler that really closes the loops on all the issues that are put down as priorities. And I suppose the opportunity not just within tech, but what tech enables for under industries as well. The continent, we see a lot of fintech startups and so on. Words that you would have for them to continue as well and to partner with you. What sort of solutions are needed to really see big business that is part of the B20 being able to fast track that inclusive growth that we're looking for, the role that small businesses, entrepreneurs within the tech space play as well in ensuring that takes place?
Yeah, look, if you just look at the infrastructure projects, and there was one part, is also one major pillar of, the development for Africa, but also South Africa. So if you think about infrastructure in electricity, in water, in rail, so at the end of the day, there is such a huge demand, and we, big business, cannot serve all of them. So we are actively also looking for partners who can come in to help, for instance, with metadata management solution in the water network. How do you recognize the revenue? These ones, they need to maintain all the time. They need to be tested for cybersecurity attributes so that nobody is infringing the software. And so we are really looking for these kind of entrepreneurs out in all the countries in the region, because it is not possible from our strengths to serve them all. And that is exactly bringing small and entrepreneurial companies together in a context with big business like us, which have, the overarching solution. They are able to work with us and be actually a solution provider on the ground. And that, I do believe, is a good motivation, because in that case, they serve their own society.
Absolutely, Sabina. Thank you so much for talking to us. Of course, Sabina Dolomo is the CEO at Siemens, and just really echoing what has been coming out of this year's B20 Summit, some of those proceedings starting over the weekend, really a highlight in ensuring that that financing gap is closed, because it covers various issues that are priority areas for the Global South, including, as Sabina just said, driving that at technological skill, including youth and women in the ecosystem, as well as inviting entrepreneurs to be part of the solution. So any entrepreneur that's sitting in the community to be able to see how they can be part of solving the challenges and obstacles to inclusive growth in their communities, and then working with the likes of Siemens, part of the business group, to be able to really see those solutions implementable and sustainable, Vuyo. So I'm just going to quickly get out of the frame because we still do have the business leaders. You can move out, the business leaders here just engaging as the sessions close in the exhibition, and upstairs there are meeting rooms for those who would like to, make some deals, pencil in maybe some meetings. But the B20 South Africa Presidency officially handed over to the United States, and the delegates now looking forward to the G20 summit that will then take place, or G20 leaders summits that will then take place over the weekend, Vuyo.
Ntokozo Khumalo, live from that event. Incidentally, on the same day that the Reserve Bank governor and the rest of the monetary policy team